Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty significant for folks dealing with generalized myasthenia gravis, or GMG.
That's right.
The FDA just gave the green light to a new drug from Johnson & Johnson. It's called Imaavy.
Nipocalimab ahu is the technical name.
Right. So we've looked at the info from the FDA, the MDA, clinical studies, basically trying to get you up to speed quickly.
Yeah, the goal is to break down what this actually is, how it works, how it might compare to other things out there.
The good, the bad.
Exactly. Benefits, risks, and importantly, how you might even access it if it seems like a fit.
And the Muscular Dystrophy Association seems positive, viewing this as a really important step, right? More options, maybe more personalized care down the line.
Absolutely. It broadens the toolkit, which is always good news.
Yeah.
So should we get into the science bit, how Imaavy actually works?
Yeah, let's do it. So it's different from some of the older treatments, I gather. What's the mechanism here?
Okay, so Imaavy is what they call a first-in-class FcRn inhibitor.
FcRn, neonatal Fc receptor.
You got it. Now, this FcRn thing, its normal job, is basically recycling certain antibodies, specifically IgG antibodies.
Okay, antibodies usually help us, but in MG.
Right. In GMG, you have these specific IgG autoantibodies. The anti-AChR and anti-MuSK ones are the main culprits that mistakenly attack the neuromuscular junction. That's where nerves talk to muscles.
And FcRn keeps these bad actors around.
Pretty much, yeah. It recycles them along with the helpful antibodies so their levels stay high and keep causing problems.
Okay. So Imaavy steps in and stops that recycling process for the harmful ones.
Exactly. It physically blocks the FcRn receptor. By doing that, it stops these pathogenic IgG antibodies, both AChR and MuSK types, from getting recycled.
So their levels should drop.
Correct. The clinical trial showed it can reduce the median total IgG level by up to 75% within about 24 weeks.
Wow, that's a big drop.
It is. And what's key is that it seems to do this, targeting those disease-causing Igs without missing too much with other important antibodies like IgE, IgA, and IgM.
So it's kind of selective in a way. It doesn't just wipe out everything.
Yeah, it appears to be the idea, yeah. More targeted.
And by lowering these specific bad antibodies, what does that mean for someone's actual symptoms?
Well, the hope in the mechanism suggests that by reducing that autoimmune attack at the neuromuscular junction, the communication between nerves and muscles should improve.
Leading to less weakness, better function.
That's the goal. Less muscle weakness, and ideally an improvement in those daily life symptoms of GMG.
Okay. Now, you mentioned other treatments. People might have heard of, say, Vyvgart or maybe Zilbrysq. How does Imaavy stack up?
Good question. That's crucial for people weighing options. Yeah. So Vyvgart Efgartigimod is actually in the same class. It's also an FcRn blocker.
Oh, okay. Same basic mechanism then.
Fundamentally, yes. Vyvgart's approved for adults with the anti-AChR positive type of GMG. That's the most common one. And they also have a version you inject under the skin, Vyvgart Hytrulo.
Right.
Now, a key difference shows up when you look at the trials. Vyvgart's big study really focused on those AChR positive patients.
Whereas Imaavy.
The Imaavy trials, and also trials for another drug called Rystiggo from UCB, they included patients who were either AChR positive or MuSK positive.
So a potentially broader group in the studies.
A broader group in terms of antibody type, yes. And another big thing, Imavy's approval includes kids, adolescents aged 12 and up, with either antibody type. That makes it the first FcRn blocker for that age group.
That does sound significant, covering both antibody types and younger patients. What about Zilbrysq, though? That works differently, doesn't it?
It does, yes. Zilbrysq, or zilucoplan, is a C5 inhibitor. It targets a different part of the immune system cascade called the complement system.
So different approach entirely.
Totally different pathway. Interestingly, though, there was a real-world study comparing efgartigimod, the Vyvgart active ingredient, with C5 inhibitors, drugs like Zilbrysq's cousins, eculizumab and ravulizumab.
And what did that find?
It suggested they had pretty comparable effectiveness and safety profiles. So, FcRn blocking seems to be in the same ballpark as complement inhibition for GMG outcomes.
So two effective, newer strategies just working differently.
Exactly. But again, Imavy's specific niche right now is being the only FcRn blocker approved for both AChR and MuSK-positive adults and those pediatric patients 12 and older.
Got it. So we've talked about lowering the antibodies. What about the actual benefits people might feel? We hear things like faster relief or maybe needing less steroids with some of these newer drugs.
Right. The core benefit is that targeted effect, reducing the specific antibodies driving the disease. In the Imaavy trials, patients showed Statistically significant improvements in daily functions compared to placebo.
Like what kind of functions?
Things like chewing, swallowing, talking, even breathing activities that GMG often impacts. And this is seen over 24 weeks.
And did it last?
Encouragingly, yes. A follow-up study suggested these benefits were sustained for, well, up to 20 months.
Okay, that's positive. What about that faster relief idea?
So that specific point wasn't maybe the headline from the main Imaavy trial data we saw. However, with Zilbrisk's different mechanism, same condition, some patients did report symptom improvements quite quickly, even within the first week.
So it suggests these newer targeted therapies might work relatively fast for some.
It hints at that possibility, yes, though individual results always vary, of course.
Of course. And the steroid-sparing idea, that's a big one for many patients dealing with long-term steroid side effects.
Absolutely huge. That real-world study comparing the FcRn drug class and the C5 inhibitors, it found patients in both groups managed substantial reductions in their prednisolone doses.
So less steroid needed.
That's the implication, which strongly suggests that Imaavy, being an FcRn antagonist, likely holds that same potential for helping patients reduce their steroid dependency. That's a major quality of life factor.
Definitely. Okay, so potential for better daily function, sustained relief, possibly faster action for some, and reducing steroids. Let's talk risks. What side effects came up in the trials?
Crucial to cover this, absolutely.
Yeah.
The most commonly reported side effects with Imaavy were things like airway infections, colds, sinus infections. Also, some swelling, typically in the hands, ankles, or feet, and muscle spasms were noted.
And are there more serious potential risks?
Yes. Like many treatments that affect the immune system, there's a potential for a higher risk of infections overall. Allergic reactions are possible, and also infusion-related reactions during or soon after getting the IV drip.
What should people watch out for, like red flags that mean call the doctor right away?
Definitely. Any signs of infection, fever, chills, a bad cough, burning when you pee. Also, any signs of an allergic reaction like severe itching, hives, trouble breathing, or chest pain needs immediate attention.
Okay.
And things like headache, dizziness, a rash, or skin redness during or after the infusion should also be reported quickly.
Good to know. Anything else important for patients to tell their doctors before starting?
Yes, definitely. They need to mention any history of allergies, any infections they have now or had recently.
Yeah.
Vaccination status is important too. Live vaccines are generally a no-go with Imaavy.
Oh, okay.
And just giving a full list of everything they take, other meds, supplements, vitamins, is vital to check for interactions. Oh, and safety in pregnancy or breastfeeding isn't established, so that's a key discussion point too.
Right. Very important considerations. So let's switch to the practical side. If someone listening thinks Imaavy might be right for them, how do they go about finding out more or accessing it?
Okay, so J&J has set up a patient support program. They've mentioned that people with commercial insurance might potentially have zero out-of-pocket costs, which is obviously helpful.
That could make a big difference.
For sure. And we should also mention the MDA Resource Center. Again, they're a great source of info and support. The number is 1-833-ASK-MDA1, and the email is resourcecenter@mdesa.org.
Good resources. But the first step is always
talking to your neurologist. Absolutely. That's the critical conversation. They know your specific situation, your antibody status, your history, everything, and can help figure out if Imaavy is a suitable option for you.
And it sounds like it could be relevant for quite a broad swath of GMG patients based on what J&J said.
Yeah, they stated the approval covers potentially over 90% of the GMG patient population, given it includes both major antibody types and now adolescents.
Okay. So patient support available, MDA resources, but the key is that neurologist conversation. It really does sound like Imaavy adds a significant new tool to the toolbox for GMG.
It really seems to. Having another option, especially one with this novel FcRn mechanism that's approved for both AChR and MuSK-causative folks and younger patients. It offers more hope, more potential for tailoring treatment and improving quality of life.
It's definitely an advancement.
Another step forward, absolutely.
Well, this has been incredibly informative. For everyone listening, we really hope this deep dive helps you understand Imaavy better. We encourage you to look into the resources mentioned and, crucially, have that conversation with your own healthcare team. And maybe that leaves us with a final thought to ponder. As we see more and more of these targeted therapies emerge for GMG, how do we, patients and doctors together, best navigate these choices to really personalize care and get the best possible outcome for each individual? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.